want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed and liked and shared and commented. We really appreciate the support, and our stuff from the CUFFS family is growing. I mean, in terms of the audience, not us in terms of having another baby or anything. Just putting that out there, just in case by later we hear that, oh, we're pregnant again. No, that's not the case. Not right now. Really, no, not right now. Right. Okay, guess where I am? I finally get to do a video in our girls' tent. You know, this is one of their favorite places, and one of mine too. Yes. So, today we're going to talk about C-sections and breastfeeding. So, for those who are close to me, you would have known that I have had 2 C-sections to bring our beautiful girls into the world. Now, let me tell you, I never thought about a C-section prior to actually having them. I did not think that that was something that I would have had to do. I thought it would have been easy peasy, get pregnant, and then you push out the baby and, you know, you do the hard work after. But lo and behold, it started off with Bria, first of all. So let's talk about Bria first, right? So I was in class teaching at NCU when I went into labor, and I called my parents because hubby was at work in Kingston at the time. And I called my parents and I said, hey, I think I'm going into labor. You guys can come pick me up and take me to the hospital. Now, by that time, I was always traveling with the baby bag and hospital bag in all the cars. Every car that I would travel in that last 3 weeks, a month, 3 weeks to a month, yes, I always had the stuff. What's that cow? Country living. All right, so yes, I used to travel with the bags all the time. So when I called mommy and daddy and they came for me and we were on our way to the hospital, I started wondering if it was contractions or if it was Braxton Hicks. I wasn't sure, but I wasn't taking any chances. So we got to the hospital. They stringed me up and they said, all right, Mrs. Cuff, you're going into labor. So, you know, I say, yes, time to put into action all the breathing exercises. And I had made a folder on my laptop that said labor room music and the whole works, and I was ready. And then they came and they did their tests, and, you know, when they're checking how far the baby is, the doctor said to me, Mrs. Cuff, I need to talk to you. So obviously when you hear we need to talk, you know, so it's not a good thing. So I am there with my mom because Brian was on his way. And he said to me, he checked me again to see how far the baby was. And he said to me, Mrs. Cuff, I don't think that you'll be able to push because I think that your pelvic passage is too narrow. So I'm there wondering, I knew about, you know, narrow pelvic passages and all of that, but none of that was detected throughout my pregnancy. And he said to me, on top of that, it seems as if the baby's umbilical cord is short, and so there is the possibility that the baby may get stuck. Now, when I heard that word stuck, I just started to bawl. Because I just couldn't understand what he was saying. I just never understand what he was saying. What do you mean by there's a possibility the baby might get stuck? And then he said, we are suggesting that you do an emergency C-section. When he said emergency C-section, it's like everything just started tumbling down in my brain. I was like, C-section? But I had a perfect pregnancy. What do you mean by C-section? I had a perfect pregnancy. No nausea, no sickness, no nothing. I just kind of flew through. So what do you mean by C-section? And, you know, thinking about it now, I can think of all the emotions that, you know, came flooding in. I started crying, number one, because I was not mentally prepared to have a C-section. Not once do I remember, you know, thinking about a C-section during my pregnancy. And so when the doctor said C-section, I was like, it's like me just never understand why he was telling me I needed to do a C-section. Well, I knew why, but I never understood in the moment. And then I started thinking about all those, videos that I had watched and the mamas pushing. And, I started thinking about how I was really prepping for labor and looking forward to the experience and, doing my breathing exercises. And then I started thinking about what people may think of me as a C-section mama, because there's something that I've seen it floating around on social media. And I've actually heard people say that, you're not a real mother if you do a C-section. You have to push to be a real mother. Please. But in that moment, I was disappointed. I was overwhelmed. I felt like my body was letting me down. Honestly. I felt like my body wasn't working the way that it was supposed to work. I felt like maybe my body never made good or something. I don't know. I felt like, maybe something was wrong all along, but I just never knew. I did not feel like I was doing, or my body was working the way that it was designed to, because of what the doctor said. This was like probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they said we're going to schedule the C-section for 10 o'clock tonight. So I said, all right. Called hubby, was bawling, me a ball, and because I was crying, mommy started crying, and we were just very emotional about the whole thing, because mentally I was not prepared to have a C-section. Anyway, fast forward to like 8 o'clock in the night. By that time the nurse said I was like 5 centimeters dilated, but I wasn't feeling much pain, to be honest. I don't know if I reached in active labor, I don't know. But the nurse said I was 5 centimeters dilated. Based on how I've seen people, react when they are dilating, I couldn't relate at that point. And that is when I knew that, everybody's experience is different, and my pain threshold may have been very, very high. I don't know. But anyway, got prepped for the C-section, and when I was going in, first of all, I went under because everything just happened so fast. So they put me to sleep, and I woke up. The next thing I knew was when I was in the recovery room, and I heard somebody talking to me. And I was there wondering, who is this? This person is just talking and just talking and just talking. And when I opened my eyes, I saw a gentleman reading a newspaper, and he was talking to me like, Mrs. Cuff, are you okay? You know where you are? And the first thing I said was, where's my baby? She all right? And he said, yeah, man, the baby's with daddy and they're waiting for you. So come out of hospital, the whole works, came home. Let me tell you, I was not prepared for what I buck up in when I came home and had to deal with the realities of a C-section. Now, first of all, came home, I had a lot of pain meds and meds for inflammation, whole heap of pain medication. So came home and started the process of breastfeeding, which, by the way, so far in all my years, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. No university never had so, no job when me do never had so, nothing when me go through never had so, like breastfeeding. And I don't know if there are any moms out there who, can relate to what I'm saying, but just thinking about it right now, I'm thinking about my first breastfeeding experience. It was like crazy. So on top of having to deal with the whole process of breastfeeding, I had to deal with breastfeeding plus the incision that was literally feeling like it was going to pull out every time I started to breastfeed, because you know your uterus contracts when you are breastfeeding. You know, that's the whole process that takes place. And every time Bria latched on, I felt it down in my incision, and I just couldn't understand why I was feeling so much pain. And you know, it was then that I started to do some research and to find out what it is that I am going through. And the first 2 weeks was very hard in relation to breastfeeding, because I never knew it would have been so hard. You know, I always saw the pictures of the mommies, you know, holding their babies and looking all peaceful and nice and, you know, so calm and just breastfeeding and, you know, the whole works. Me, I was like, and I'm breastfeeding and the tears have come, and we just couldn't understand what is this I'm going through. Only to find out, obviously, that I'm not alone at all. So my recovery from the first C-section, after the first 2 weeks, I started to, you know, mentally accept everything that took place, dealing with having a newborn and breastfeeding and the incision, how to care for it, what to do, what not to do. But I'm just so thankful that I had a lot of support. I don't know how mommies, single mommies and mommies with other children with no additional support, I don't know how y'all do it. Big ups to you. But I'm happy that I had a lot of support, you know, to help me through that process, because it was tough. It was tough. So fast forward to 3 years later, baby number 2. This time around, it didn't come to us as a surprise that, you know, we were going to do a C-section, because during all our follow-up visits to the doctor, or visits and our follow-up visits, you know, by the time we got to like 37 weeks, our doctor, he recommended, Dr. Nepal, big up yourself, love you, sir. You know, he recommended that we schedule another C-section. So, all right, been there before. I feel like, all right, I'm going to manage this a little bit better, because now I'm mentally prepared. We're planning for it. I know what to expect. I say, all right, okay, good to go. February 5, 2019, went through another C-section, but this time I was awake. Yes, this time I was awake, and this time Brian was actually in the operating room with me. And I was there. I felt like I was floating. I don't know if it was all the meds or whatever. I felt like I was floating. I felt so nice, and I could hear everything that was happening. I could hear the doctors talking. Brian was right there looking a bit nervous when I was looking at him. And I remember saying to him, babe, you know, I say I should have put on some red lipstick though. I don't know. I was just feeling so good. And he was looking at me like, okay, babe. And then I said, you know, the first thing I'm going to get when I come out of here is an Oreo milkshake from down at Savannah's Cafe. And I was just there talking. And then the next thing I heard was the anesthesiologist saying to Brian, take the picture. Guys, my man coming at the operating room with him camera and everything to take pictures. And if the anesthesiologist never tell him to take the picture, then Brian would remember say a picture him coming to take. Apart from supporting me, you know, a picture him coming to take, because we wanted to capture the moment, especially because he was able to be in the room this time around and I was awake and, you know, feeling good and everything. So he snapped a picture, which we will show you. Most beautiful picture ever. And then they carried the baby around, and I saw her and I was like, oh, look at my baby, and she was crying and the whole works. So not preparing, no, after the second C-section, I stayed in the hospital like 2 to 3 days. Yes, 2 to 3 days. And I was good. The pain management in the hospital was good, because the nurses were, really on point and really, just giving me my meds on time, no pain kicking, nothing. I just want to big up my peeps down at Royal Medical Hospital. There's a private hospital down there in Savlamar. Bishop Nepal and Sister Nepal, loving the entire staff, loving can done. Had our own pink room and everything. So being in the hospital was fine. Hubby was there, the whole works. It was a pleasant and beautiful experience, right? Beautiful experience. So came home the Saturday or the Friday, I can't really remember right now. But came home and feeling good still and everything. They gave me an injection for the road and, came home, felt good. About 11 o'clock in the night, I started feeling some pain. So I looked at my watch and I was like, maybe I never take the pain meds on time. So I went and I took another dose. And let me tell you, the pain would not go away. Only to realize, and again, maybe this is because, well, it's obviously a different pregnancy. So I don't know how my body would have reacted to the different meds and everything. Only to find out that none of the pain medication that I had gotten were working. None. Nada. Not one single one. I was in pain and agony from 11 o'clock the night until daylight. When I saw my ball, I cried to the point where I just feel like, okay, this is it. This is the amount of pain I was feeling. Remember, I am recovering from a major surgery. I cried so much that all my mother started crying. I cried so much that my husband looked at me and he said, not another one. Not another one. I have never felt so much pain in my life. I've never felt so much discomfort, not even the first time around, even though I wasn't mentally prepared or anything. I've never felt so much pain and agony in my entire life. When daylight, hubby went to the pharmacy and I think he got every type of pain meds that he could find that we could get over the counter. Called doc and doc said, it seems as if my body was just not reacting or taking the pain medication that I had. So I really endured a whole heap of pain the whole night. I think the whole Mandeville probably hear me home with a cry at one point. And then to be dealing with that and to be expressing and to be breastfeeding and the whole works, like, it was at that point that I said to myself, we're done, not another one. I don't know if I can go through this kind of agony again. And then on top of that, to hear people, like on social media, I don't know where people come up with this from, for them to say that, C-section mothers are not real mothers because they never push. Seriously? Now, mind you, I don't know what it's like to push. I don't know that kind of pain and agony, but I can speak of my experience. So I don't even know where that comment started or whatever, but I've seen it floating around on social media, and I just want to say, big up to all the C-section mamas. Of course, big up to all the mamas who pushed. We've all had our different experiences and we have our beautiful babies to give God thanks for. So whichever route you took, big ups to you. Thumbs up, thumbs up. So we finally got something that would work for the pain and feeling good, and we're good to go. And then I had to just remind myself, because I was feeling so good, I had to remind myself that, hey, you just did a major surgery. So I really had to take it easy. And fast forward to a year and a half later, feeling good. Still feel a few aches and pains here and there, but overall feeling good after after 2 C-sections. The first one was harder on me mentally. The second one, it was harder physically. And as it relates to breastfeeding, the second time around was much easier, much easier, because I knew what to do. I knew the things I needed to eat, some things that I used to eat to help boost my milk supply: cornmeal porridge, Malta, Gatorade, a lot of water, oats porridge. I used to have those to help me with the whole breastfeeding process. Sometimes I would pump, and in one session I got like 13 ounces. Yes, whole heap of milk. My father used to walk past me and say, "Moo." Yeah, I guess I was a cow or something. But yeah, I'm going to have to do a whole video on breastfeeding, you know, some breastfeeding tips and some things that I used to do and some things that worked for me that, you know, can probably work for you as well. So yeah, I think that's about it for my C-section journey. Yeah, just that's about it for this video. I'll do a follow-up video on breastfeeding because I think this video is getting a little bit long. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because I know that there are a lot of mamas out there who, you know, have probably had my experience, and you are probably going through that right now. And let me just tell you, you were made for this. You'll get through it. It gets more manageable with time. And, you know, you're going to look back and say, it was worth it. Yeah, it was worth it. All right, guys. So until our next video, remember to like, subscribe, and share the page and tell somebody about it. It's all about stuff from the CUFFS. We'll have another video for you. And again, thank you for all your support.